Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Who's that kid with the Oreo cookies?
Rebel News presents a once-in-a-lifetime Christmas collection album. You'll get such classics as... And...
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Oh, and don't forget this timeless hit.
Of a white Christmas.
To order your Rebel Christmas Collection album, call this number now! Hey guys, just joking. If I had a Christmas album, you wouldn't want it, believe me. But what I am encouraging you to do is go to rebelnewsstore.com, get some gifts for your friends and family. Make sure you order by December 14th, and it'll be there in time for you to get it under the tree. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Wow, that's my favorite. Hi, everybody. This is the Rebel News Daily Live Stream. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn-Reid, joined by international recording sensation, Adam Sos in Calgary. Adam, how are you doing? Before we go on, though, I have to tell you, you have the expressive eyes of another Canadian international singing sensation, Celine Dion. I got that look about your eyes when you were getting passionate about the Christmas music there.
It's the Celine Dion, the French Canadian in me comes out when I start singing. And you know, I do that at least once a week, regardless of season. I go through a stroll through Pierce Estate Park and sing Christmas carols. K2 happened to be there to capture it this time. So
right. Right. You just jump out from behind the bushes. Just jump out from behind the bushes and start singing. That's not weird.
Yeah. No.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that fun little store ad that we put together. Adam, you did great on that. And K2, his editing skills are next level on that with the K2. Yeah. I guess it's KTEL, the KTEL feel to it, those old late night commercials. Mm-hmm. Well, I should tell everybody what we're doing here before we get too far into the weeds. Mm-hmm. But if you are a fan of Rebel News and you want your Rebel News merch in time for Christmas to annoy your liberal family members or gift to your very conservative uncle, you need to order by, I guess, tomorrow to get it in time for Christmas.
Do it today. Just do it today.
Do it today. And use the coupon code ADAM10 to get 10% off of your whole order and free global shipping, which I think is a great deal.
Or Sheila 10 if you've already used Adam 10.
That's right. But you know what? You really earned the discount code today, Adam. Anyways, before we go on, I should tell everybody what we're doing. We'll get the nuts and bolts out of the way, and then we'll get talking about the news. So this is the Rebel News Daily Live Stream. You should just be hosted on Fridays by the big boss man, Ezra Levant. But the pandemic struck. We all sort of got grounded. Many of you who watch us were sent home every day. And the restrictions and rules and news was moving so fast and changing so fast that I think one of the best ways for us to deal with it was to sit down and talk to each other and talk to you every single day. And it was a great way for us to raise a little money to pay the bills at the company through something called a super chat that YouTube allowed us to take. But then Biden got elected and the mask totally slipped off of big tech. They knew that they didn't have to pretend to be soft censoring conservatives. They could just come out and just do it, drop the hammer on us. And that's what they did. They completely demonetized us. They took away our ability to receive super chats from our supporters. So we simultaneously broadcast on YouTube because YouTube kind of doesn't want us there. So that's how you get more of us. But we also are broadcasting on other platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, and SuperU. Great sort of neutral free speech platforms. And SuperU is a Canadian startup. So if you're a bit of a big tech patriot, that's might be the one for you. They allow us to accept donations and tips in the form of Rumble rants, Odyssey hyper chats, and SuperU shouts, so you can support us there. If you do that, we'll do our best to read your comment and address it on air. And we are on YouTube anyway, sort of because YouTube doesn't want us there, but there's almost 1.6 million of you there, and we don't want to abandon you, even the people who hate watch us. But there will come a time where we have to sort of evacuate the platform of YouTube and just start broadcasting exclusively today, the rest of the stream on those other platforms, because we will get into things that YouTube says we just can't talk about. It'll angry up your delicate blood. And so you can't have too much to think. And so I mean, I can't even tell you the things we're not allowed to talk about, because talking about things that you're not allowed to talk about could get your channel nuked. So there will come a time where we say sort of goodbye to YouTube, but not goodbye to our YouTube viewers. We encourage you to join us over on those other platforms to hear out the rest of the show and, you know, make your own mind up about the things that we're talking about. Don't let big tech make it up for you. I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah?
I think you got it. That's good. Go to
Okay.
rebelnewsstore.com.
Yeah, and go to rebelnewsstore.com. You know what, Adam? I'll let you sort of lead off with the first story. This is two Albertans talking about Alberta stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, we are the hotbed of conservatism in the entire country. And we've got big news.
Yeah. So Brian Jean has won the UCP nomination for the by-election in Fort McMurray, Lac La Biche. The big thing here is that he won predominantly on a campaign of pushing for Jason Kenney to resign. So this clearly the first step in something that, again, surprises nobody, his probable campaign to reseek the leadership of the UCP. So that is inevitably what lies ahead. It's right there in his campaign policy. You and I have talked at length about Brian Jean since we've had some of those conversations. I actually had the opportunity to interview him at the UCP AGM. There was a lot of talk about leadership. One of the interesting things at that UCP AGM was Jason Kenney's endeavors to make it more difficult for the leadership to be reviewed. He wanted to increase, out of the 87 total seats possible, he wanted to increase it so a third would be needed in order to call for a leadership review instead of just a quarter, or 22 seats it rounds up to. That vote failed despite sort of allegations that he had stacked the room and was really efforting to try and get that passed. So with Brian Jean winning this nomination, Jason Kenney also did say that he would side nominations. I mean, they've said this, they've made grassroots guaranteed promises in the past. Yeah. Hasn't necessarily fleshed out, but he has recommitted, perhaps not since this nomination announcement, but he has said if people win a valid nomination, he will sign off on them. So this is shaping up to be there's some other names out there, but this is shaping off once again to be Brian Jean versus Jason Kenney. I've got lots of thoughts on that. I'll let you kind of launch into what you think, and then I'll reply or retort. We don't always see exactly eye to eye on this, pretty close, sure. But yeah, go ahead.
You know, it's funny to watch. This is just, you know, really, it's supposed to be on paper an inconsequential by-election in a perfectly safe conservative riding, but he beat the basically hand-selected Jason Kenney loyalist candidate pretty handedly. Mm-hmm. And the only thing he's really running on, like, I know he's not so keen on the extent of the restrictions happening in Alberta, but really the only thing he ran on is that Jason Kenney needs to resign. And so when this does go to a by-election, every single person, as Dwayne Bratt, who I'm sort of indifferent to most days, he's a political scientist, he says every single person in this riding, because opposition parties and the guy who's running for the UCP, every single one of them is running against the government. And I think that's pretty interesting, including the guy who's running for the government party.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. One of the things that really struck me is, and it's the conversation we've been having over and over. First off, I mean, there is this sort of sentiment that doesn't like Alberta deserve, like there was a lot of excitement when Jason Kenney came. Jason Kenney beat Brian Jean. Jason Kenney was going to be the guy. He said everything right. And on some issues, he's been really good. But like we've heard repeatedly, when it comes to that championship basket, he's just missing on freedom, on the fundamental human rights issues. He can be doing great on everything else, but if he's not doing a great job on that one fundamental issue, that's extremely problematic. People are often wondering what Brian Jean is beyond someone who wants to be the leader of the United Conservative Party. We know he's a good guy. We know he's been through some tough things. We know, like, when there was the fires, he was there and he gained a lot
His house burned down.
Support. Yeah, exactly. Like the man has endured a lot, and the man clearly loves Alberta. But people are wondering where he sits on the spectrum. Kenny has leaned left on a number of issues, predominantly the COVID restrictions. He's surrendered a lot of freedoms. He's overseen the prosecution of pastors. He's done a lot of damage to his brand as the prime minister who was supposed to be the freedom guy. I can't help but shake this sentiment that now that he's not popular, the other guy is just coming back. And this is nothing against Brian Jean. I just feel like Alberta deserves that new hope, so to speak, of someone from amidst the ranks who maybe isn't a career politician or doesn't clearly want to be the leader, but someone who maybe is an industry leader or someone who stands up for principles and values, but not someone who's just sort of a recreational politician who's maybe retired, but someone who has skin in the game still and can lead up and be that passionate voice. I'm not sure if Brian Jean is that guy. Presently, I'd probably take him over Jason Kenney because when I spoke with him, he effectively said, I'm like, where are you on the spectrum? People want to know, are you left? Are you right? Where are you? His response was effectively that, well, we need new leadership and I'm going to listen to the people. Well, if that's true, and he does listen to the people and he does pay attention to the thousands of people protesting every weekend and the clear discontent but beyond that, the general sentiment of I'm going to listen to the people, well, Jason Kenney would say that that's what he's doing right now too.
Yeah.
Probably. I wanted something stronger. Like, listen, there are fundamental charter rights that are being violated right now, and that wouldn't fly under me. I'd take somebody who listens to the people instead of enacting his own volition to an extent, which would probably be an improvement over some of what Jason Kenney's doing right now. But I actually want someone with some convictions who's saying, listen, this is wrong. Someone can be very pro-vaccine and be militantly opposed to vaccine mandates. That can be a sensible position.
That's
I wouldn't
the Ron
necessarily
DeSantis
espouse it.
view. That's the Ron DeSantis view. He's like, everybody should get vaccinated, but the hell we're going to make everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And the wild thing is this sort of, it's so easy. I don't know why they can't espouse that perspective. And the problem is they early on adopted this vilification of the unvaccinated, which we're not supposed to talk about too much. We won't talk about it beyond this YouTube, but they adopted that. We're not talking about the science or the efficacy. They sort of adopted that as their narrative. And now there's no way to get away from that talking point.
Right.
So they're kind of stuck. So that vilification, they can't now retract and go to the live and let live, let you be you, I'll be me kind of perspective on things because they're married to that. So I think that it's hard for them to admit they were wrong and to backtrack. So we can talk about that more later, but I think they're just trapped, and maybe new leadership won't be stuck in that trap, and they will have an opportunity to discuss things more openly. But
that's the thing. I'm willing to see a very rigorous leadership review because maybe Brian Jean isn't the guy. But what the party members are saying is that the guy is not Jason Kenney. And so while you say we might disagree on this, I don't think we do at all. I think I think also just electorally speaking, with regard to his chances of winning the leadership, Brian Jean's chances, that is, he's going to obviously capitalize on buyer's remorse. A lot of people chose Jason Kenney in the leadership race of the UCP when the parties joined over Brian Jean, thinking this is the guy with the long history of conservatism and human rights, on a global scale. And it's turned out that while Jason Kenney seemed to care about human rights in China, he doesn't actually seem to care about them all that much here. And so I think Brian Jean is going to draw from that well, and being well-known leader of the conservative or the Wild Rose Party. He's got a lot of name recognition. People like him. His family's well respected in and around Alberta, so he's going to capitalize on that. But I would like to see more policy ideas materialize, and I want to make sure that they're conservative. It's one thing to be populist, but it's also another thing to be populist while maintaining your conservative values of fiscal responsibility and small government and leaving people alone and respecting human rights. he said, this is Brian Jean. He said, I'm coming back to Alberta politics to make sure that we solve the issues that we have with this party. There's a lot of people that sacrificed a lot to build this party. It doesn't belong to Jason Kenney. It doesn't belong to Brian Jean. It doesn't belong to any one individual. It belongs to all of us. This is our party. Albertans are looking for hope and for change, and I'm the person. I believe that this brings, I don't know, it looks like they missed a period there. But basically, he's going to now, even though that this is a by-election, he's going to be just tootling around the province, talking to people. He's using his by-election, which I think needs to be called by February 28th and in the works by the end of March. They have to go to a vote there. But he's just going to use this as a launching platform.
Yeah.
So even though he's just running locally in Lac La Biche, Fort McMurray, he's going to be everywhere actively campaigning for the leadership of the party. So I don't know. I mean, I want to hear something different. I want to hear Jason Kenney was wrong on vaccine passports. That's the one thing I really want to hear.
Yeah. And again, on YouTube, so I'm not going to comment further. I want to. We'll talk about it after. The question for me really resides in the fact of, I think so much of what Jason Kenney has done surrounding various topics has been what the federal Conservatives have done. And don't get mistaken, there are similar voices giving them both advice, where they're like, we're not going to lose our base, so who cares if we irritate them a little bit? We need to win some folks over. And I think some of the policies as of late have echoed that. Let's say Brian Jean does win and he is the leader. The next question is, what happens in the next election? And my fear is, if he doesn't say that he has these fixed principles, my fear is come the next election, for fear of not wanting to lose to the NDP, what prevents him from just compromising and doing the same thing on a bunch of issues? I'm wondering how much different it will be than Jason Kenney when faced with those same pressures. I feel like you need someone with the gusto to say, listen, I don't care if people like it or not, but this is what I stand for. If you support these ideas, these are the ideas I'm going to go to bat for. Vote for me if you like these ideas. That's what we really need. I mean, and if they're principled and charismatic and that stuff, that helps very much as well. I think Brian Jean probably is principled and somewhat charismatic and interesting, but he doesn't have that, here's what I'm fighting for. He's Jason Kenney bad, I'm better, which is ultimately, that's how the NDP beat the UCP the first time. And this is just another in the long, never-ending strings of the UCP, instead of winning because they have the best idea, same thing with the Conservatives, they're trying not to lose. And when you try not to lose, very often, before you know it, if you don't have an offense, you're going to end up losing that game. And that's what's happened again and again. It's happening with Kenney now. My hope is whoever is the next leader, whether it be Brian Jean or someone else, is that they have convictions and principles and that they go on the offensive saying, my ideas are better than yours. Don't get me wrong, another issues on oil and gas, defending pipelines, criticizing David Suzuki, some of these other points, like the Conservatives, I think they're realizing presently under Jason Kenney. We've done interviews with most ministers in the last 2-3 weeks. I think they're realizing that they have to be strong on issues and they can't just not lose. That's why they've taken these aggressive declarations and stances. They've put those things forward. But on this one pivotal issue, none of those other issues see 10,000 people walking through the streets of Calgary. That is the basketball basket that needs to be sunk. Let's talk about hockey. That's better for me. That's that penalty shot in the last minute of the championship game that you're whiffing on and completely missing. And I'm hoping that there will be leadership, whether that's Jason Kenney turning it around and doing the right thing, or Brian Jean stepping up and saying, here are my principles, here's what I'm fighting for, or someone else coming in and having the best ideas and therefore winning.
Yeah, and we're running out of time. I think we're about 18 months, not even, out from the next, less than that, out from the next election. We're running out of time to, if it's necessary, to change party leadership and then get somebody in place who can run effectively against the union-backed juggernaut of the NDP. Brian Jean's assessment is the only way that we, the UCP, is going to survive past the next election successfully is if Jason Kenney resigns. I agree with that. And I think if he doesn't resign, we're going to see a complete and total fracture of the party. We're going to just go back to the old like PC and Wild Rose camps, rural versus urban conservatives, and Rachel Notley wins, or whoever. I mean, I think she's just going to be the leader of that party until she dies, probably.
Yeah, she's the new Elizabeth May. Which I mean, she's not now, but she's probably going to be again the leader of the Greens. The other thing here is that what I talked not long ago about this mentality of like not trying to lose elections. The reason that conservative parties, one of them, I mean, it's also we're critical of our leadership. Liberals tend to embrace their leadership, and you'll see prime ministers doing an absolutely terrible job, but the media party still, he is Rudolph leading the sleigh astray right now, speaking of Christmas, but the media party, unless it's something egregious, like super bad, they're dead quiet. The liberal supporters are dead quiet. Conservatives criticize their people, whether it's the liberal government or the conservative government. Now, you're not adhering to the principles we believe, but this mentality of trying to win people over and not caring about your base, that is why parties keep splitting. Like, I don't know why these politicians can't figure this out. Like Jason Kenney, grassroots guarantee, big tent, bring everyone together, share these ideas, immediately violating grassroots promises in numerous constituencies to bring in people like Tyler Shandro, Matt Jones, among other people after some scandals, but ushering in his buddies into these places, and then on fundamental issues, not hearing people out. A hands-off approach where you don't pick sides is often a good decision for the government, and they could have benefited from some of that. But they didn't do that because they wanted to win NDP voters over. They wanted to win people who weren't in their base over to increase their election odds. Well, every 8 years, you're going to be splitting into different parties because you're throwing away your own base. Believe that you have better ideas, grow your base, win people over with good ideas, because you're not going to out virtue signal the NDP. You may out good idea them, but you're not going to out virtue signal them. So stop trying, stick by your base, grow your base, because you have the best ideas.
I'm with you. And I'm eagerly anticipating Brian Jean fleshing out his ideas about the future for Alberta. And not only that, what Jason Kenney has done wrong. Tell me what he did wrong. Tell me what you would have done differently. We have sort of yet to hear that. We've seen a little bit of that in some of the op-eds he's written, but I want to see that on the campaign trail. I want to see you ask him a tough question on the campaign trail, because he'll be out and about. Ask him tough questions, and let's see if he answers them without obfuscating, stumbling, or looking for desperate help from one of his handlers.
Yep.
Okie doke.
Couldn't agree more.
I think, you know what? Frankly, that's everything that's YouTube safe that we can talk about today. But we do have one more ad for the store, the Rebel News store. Gosh, our staff are so immensely talented. And I'm just like, I figured out how to make my computer talk to my camera. That's all I ever did. But you guys are really, really super talented. And Drea did a little ad for the store on her own. So maybe, AD, can we roll that before we say goodbye to our friends on YouTube?
Are you a last-minute Christmas shopper? We've got you covered. Support your favorite independent journalists by doing your Christmas shopping at rebelnewsstore.com. And you can save 10% by using my code DREA10. That's DREA10. We've got all the Patriots in your family covered, including the babies. Check out these little t-shirts and onesies, and everything you buy there supports us bringing you the other side of the story. Make sure you get your order in before December 14th, and Merry Christmas.
She's so good. I accused her of lying about her background. I'm like, no, you were a broadcaster before. Don't lie to me.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. You know, I love this. Everyone coming together. We had so much fun doing our little commercial. Like, it's we're all excited to do this stuff. Get these shirts for your friends and stuff like that. If you're walking out in public and one of these politicians, listen, most of the good politicians, frankly, watch us. A lot of them like us. But if there are, they may not admit it publicly, but they sure do. Hi, politicians who pretend you don't know who we are. How are you doing? Yeah. But for those politicians who maybe aren't fans of ours, get some Rebel swag and wear it when you're out there. You're going to run into them one of these times. And when they see those Rebel shirts, can you just imagine running into 2 or 3 people with Rebel shirts when you're out doing your groceries or whatever as one of those politicians? So it's more than just supporting the journalism we do. It's more than just Christmas presents. It is about getting that message out there that there is a real voice. We were talking about this a little bit over the weekend. Very often people out there are saying, well, like, how do we get the mainstream media to cover these events? How do we sort of bring traction to these stories? And what I said was, like, who cares? More people watch us. We're bringing you the real news without the spin. We're not getting government handouts. So help get the message out for and with Rebel News, because we're following the truth, as Ezra says, wherever it takes us. We don't show up for 10 minutes with a pre-written title. We show up and cover the truth. So we love to see you out there with those Rebel shirts. If you love toques, whatever, there's so much good stuff there. If you like supporting Rebel News, we'd love to see you out there rocking some Rebel swag, because everyone who watches the stream, everyone who watches our content is part of the team. So may as well grab a jersey and represent.
You know, it's funny. I was at a Remembrance Day event with an NDP MLA. She didn't really know that I was there because I never said that I was going there. I just went to the local Remembrance Day event. And then I think it's my hair. People notice my hair, you know, big skinny lady with a shock of black hair, right? And so she was sort of standing beside me, and then she looks and then looks again. And then these shirts, what I'm saying is these shirts make you an easily recognizable Rebel supporter, and it acts like a scarecrow for progressives. They just like see you and fly off in another direction. It also forces progressives to put their masks on because they realize that somebody's there watching to make sure that they're wearing the mask they want us to wear. As soon as she saw me, she's like beelines it away and like puts on her mask. I'm like, oh, okay. Is it because I'm a disease vector or because you're a hypocrite? I can't tell. I think
latter, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe. I think we should say goodbye to YouTube, though, AD. So if you can let us know when we're clear, and if you are watching us on YouTube, evacuate.